Hi, my name's Thete, a high-end raiding retribution paladin and also a science teacher. Now this last part is important because here's one situation where I'm going to combine science, teaching and World of Warcraft into one unholy trinity. I'm going to discuss the frequently overlooked science of being alert for raids. Raiding is an activity where a certain level of mental alertness is highly desirable, and like physical power and endurance, there are physiological ways of increasing and lowering it. The principle is much the same as performing well in an exam, only with less reliance on hand-eye coordination thrown into the mix. As a teacher, I've been researching this topic on an almost constant basis during my career. So how do we raise and maintain a high state of alertness over the course of a raid session, and what is completely irrelevant? Science, that's how. The first thing to note is that our physiology is designed to equip us for the days of a nomadic existence, not sat at a computer shouting,
"Go on the fucking priest! I'm trying to, but the road's fucking anally raping me, bro!"
and the like. We are designed to move around quite a lot, and when no longer moving about to any serious degree, our body takes that as a sign to start resting. But what are our triggers and how do we reverse it? One chemical people might bandy about is the hormone melatonin. People will know this is the hormone which regulates sleep. It's activated by darkness and severely disrupted by light, including that from your monitor. It's the reason you are advised not to check your phone or tablet in bed, as it can disrupt sleep for an hour or more. However, this is not what slows us down in a raid significantly, because that unhealthy light from your monitor keeps it at bay. Adenosine is a chemical which is constantly building up while we are awake and only broken down when we sleep. The longer we are awake, the more of it builds up and the stronger our urge to sleep. If we resist the urge for a ridiculous amount of time, we begin to hallucinate and murder our neighbours in a paranoid frenzy. So not getting enough sleep might cause you to be mentally fatigued if you have too much adenosine in your system. However, if you're maintaining a sensible sleep schedule, this too should not be a serious problem when raiding. What causes most of our dumbassery while raiding is simply not getting enough glucose and oxygen, the essential chemicals for respiration, to our brain. These chemicals are carried into the brain in our blood. Simple enough, to increase our mental alertness, we need more blood getting to our brain. However, this requires the heart to beat faster, and our cardiovascular system is disinclined to do this while we're sitting down, giving all the physical cues that we are in a rest state. Research has shown several times that exercising just before mental activity increases our alertness and we perform much better. In fact, a very recently reported study had sports scientists demonstrating that short bursts of intense activity made their test subjects mentally sharper and quicker. It improved memory, surely a great asset when progressing on a raid boss. So with this in mind, our first tip might be a few quick trips up and down the stairs before we get into the raid. It's also quite useful during the break of a raid, even if you don't need to go to the toilet or get another drink. Just stand up, walk around a bit, maybe another couple of times up and down the stairs if you have access to them. But sitting down is pretty much the worst thing to do for mental alertness. Actually, not the worst, but we'll get onto that later. Now, I know what some of you smug types have been thinking through that last section. Oh, our heart rate needs to increase. I've got the answer. Well, caffeine is certainly an aid to mental alertness, but even here there's a lot of ignorance that could be doing you long-term harm. So let's go through the facts. The main harmful effect of caffeine is that it doesn't just raise your heart rate, but makes it irregular. This cardiac arrhythmia will, over time, cause you serious health problems. People who consume more than the recommended 400 milligrams of caffeine a day on a regular basis have been known to die of heart failure as early as in their 20s. And how many of you even count the caffeine in your daily intake? Did you even know that it isn't even just found in drinks? Other harmful effects of consuming too much caffeine include anxiety and nervousness. That being said, it is most definitely an aid to mental alertness, and although I wouldn't recommend regular use for this purpose, I'm not here to tell you what to do, simply arm you with the facts so you can make your own informed decision. So, to raise mental alertness, studies have shown we need about 75 milligrams of caffeine. That's it. Any extra doesn't benefit us further, but just increases the risk of health problems. This is equivalent to about half a can of Monster, or just over a can of cola. Look up the values of your own tipple of choice. Now, if raiding were purely a mental activity, this is where I'd leave the caffeine discussion. Simple as that. More than 75 milligrams is not helping your level of alertness, so consuming any more is just silly. However, we are also responding quickly to visual cues in World of Warcraft. Unfortunately, further studies have shown that although greater amounts of caffeine don't help alertness as such, they do improve visual attention. In fact, the figure to optimize this is 200 milligrams. This is about half of the safe level of daily consumption. Although that's quite a lot to take in one go, there are no major problems so far. Unfortunately, this only applies to those of us who don't consume caffeine regularly. If you do consume caffeine on a regular basis, you've gone and desensitized yourself to some of the effects, you dozy smackheads. This means that you actually need 400 milligrams to get the same effect. Not only is this a very large quantity of caffeine to take just before a raid at one time, it's also right at the limit of your safe daily allowance. Now, given that only the addicted amongst you need this much, I would strongly suggest that you've probably already consumed a large quantity of caffeine during the day. As such, it is monumentally ill-advised to use even more caffeine to improve raiding performance. You should never go above your daily limit, and certainly not on anything even approaching a regular basis. One final thing to note on the subject of caffeine is that it takes up to about 45 minutes to take effect in your system, but lasts for hours, easily enough for a full-on raid session. So there's never any need to top it up during the raid. In fact, consuming caffeine is pretty silly during a raid because it won't take effect until the second hour and will just keep you awake when you've done. And if you've already consumed the right amount of caffeine, any further is only doing you harm and not good. So ironically, my second tip is that caffeine in the amount stated might be useful for infrequent use on important raids as long as you don't regularly consume caffeine in your everyday life. There are also several food types that are particularly good for mental activity. I recommend these to my students to eat before exams, and the same principle applies to raids. I'll save you the time of looking. Pizza isn't included. In fact, before I show you the list, remember that as well as good foods, there are also bad foods. You need to steer well clear of sugar, except in fresh fruit and vegetables, as well as most fats and starchy carbohydrates. These are poison for your brain. If you eat and drink crap while raiding normally, just think how much better you'd do with a proper diet. There's a reason top athletes spend a fortune on nutritional advice. The first item is actually water. The brain is highly sensitive to water levels. In fact, over the course of a raid, if you don't drink, or worse still, drink a diuretic liquid, such as most caffeinated drinks ironically, then your brain shrinks significantly. You mustn't drink too much water either. Just have a bottle or glass of water and take regular sips, maybe between pulls, and your brain will love you for it. Great foods for mental alertness include the following: oily fish, such as tuna or mackerel. Citrus fruits, though the whole fruit, not pure fruit juice. That's just sugar water. A lot of people think fruit juice is good for you because of vitamins. It's actually seriously bad for you. It spikes your blood sugar. The thing that stops whole fruits doing that is the fibre that you are removing by making fruit juice. Eggs are really good. Beans. Most nuts, walnuts, Brazil nuts, quite good. Fresh green leaves like spinach. Bran. Dark chocolate, though not too much. Blueberries or cranberries, and avocado. Now, this isn't an exhaustive list, but it does cover most of the best foods. So one thing I suggest, nice and easy to make, whole grain pasta with tuna and spinach would be good. Not for me personally, I don't like pasta. But that's a nice easy meal to make that a lot of people do like. Don't put any mayonnaise on it, obviously. So that's where science hits raiding. As always, I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you later.